Even death was not able to separate Abbas from Hussein, just as the haram of Abbas cannot be separated from the haram of Hussein, in the same way that Safa can never be separated from the mountain of Marwa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the mountain of Safa and Marwa to be from the Sha'air Allah. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the haram of Abbas and the haram of Hussein to be Sha'air Allah al-Kubra. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed that between the haram of Abbas and the haram of Hussein, there is a land of Mawaddah, there is a land of Azar, there is a land of Ishq, there is a land of Junoon. This is the land of Bayn al-Haramain. So long as this haram of Abbas and the haram of Hussein remains, people until the day of judgment will beat their faces and chests shouting, Ya Abbas and Ya Hussein. The divine decree of Allah is that from the land of Bayn al-Haramain, every time a tear is shed for Hussein, a tear is shed for Abbas. It is the divine decree that from Bayn al-Haramain, so long as there is a chant Ya Hussein, it will be accompanied with a chant Ya Abbas. The decree of Allah is that Abbas can never be separated from Hussein.
So here is our editing room. When we have any program in any language, in Persian, Arabic, Turkish, English, they gonna editing our program at this room, and the people and our staff is getting moved in, and they are working, getting ready, and doing the great job. And alhamdulillah, as you can see, all of 5, 6 channels, we edited any program in this room, alhamdulillah, and it's all happened by your support, by your donation, especially your support in any way. Jazakallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, and welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Now, this is a live show where we do take in your questions. If you have any question you'd like to ask on any topic whatsoever in regards to Islamic law, please send in your questions to either the WhatsApp, or there's a QR code somewhere near the bottom. You can scan that and that will take you to the page where you can follow us and where you can watch live and send in your questions. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section, and inshallah we'll be able to forward them to me, and I'll be able to discuss, and inshallah the Sheikh will be able to answer all of your queries. I'm your host Mohsin Shah, and joining me is Sheikh Ali Maash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
How are you this evening, Sheikh?
Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah.
Alhamdulillah.
Sheikhna, my first question is in regards to the status of the Ahlul Bayt and the Imma. What do the narrations say about them?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. We look into through the book of Al-Kafi, Al-Sharif, with regards to the status of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam in the imamah and the leadership. The hadith is from Imam Abul Hasan al-Rida alayhi salam. He says, Al-a'immatu khulafa'ullah azza wa jal fi ardih. The Imams of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, they are the caliphs of Allah on his earth, on this planet, by the order and the authority of Allah azza wa jal. They did not become Allah's representatives except with Allah's appointment and assignment. It can't be, because this assignment and appointment represents Allah's religion and message on earth after the demise of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it must be chosen by Allah Azza wa Jalla through the Prophet. And of course the famous hadith of the Thaqalain, that I leave two weighty or necessary things, the Book of Allah and my progeny. Kitabullah wa itrati ahli bayti. It's a mutawatir, concurrent, famous hadith in both books. You will find it in Sahih Muslim, other Sahih, this hadith. And sadly, they stuck with and they promoted the hadith Kitabullah wa Sunnati, which is da'if and has no correct sanad at all. Just because of the hatred of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. They don't want Ahlul Bayt to basically be in the front line of leadership. That was one of the ways of the Umayyads tried to basically manipulate and deviate these hadith from pointing to the right people and the rightly guided individuals. So Khulafa'ullah, they are Allah's caliphs. And as we have in the Holy Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya Dawood, inna ja'alnaka khalifatan fil ard. Surah Sa'd, ayah 26. Yeah. So Allah Azza wa Jal says to Dawood, we appoint you as Khalifa on earth. In other words, the Khalifa cannot be appointed by people, even if they are prominent people, they are the elite, they are the companions, they are the disciples of that Prophet. Appointment of the one who represents Allah on earth should be by Allah Himself through that Prophet. Another ayah about the Khalifa that should be from Allah Azza wa Jal. In Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 30. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. I assign and appoint Khalifa on earth. Nobody else has the right. And that's why we have all the hujjah upon the non-Shia that come to us and try to understand and ponder and reflect in these hadith, and as well the verses that talks about the appointment of the Imam and the Khalifa. Both terms are mentioned in the Holy Quran from Allah Azza wa Jal.
Sheikh, now we've got a question from WhatsApp. In our religious classes when we were small, we were taught that after saying Sami Allahu liman hamida, you continue to go upright and say Allahu Akbar. So from sujood, from ruku, Sami Allahu liman hamida, you'd go into qiyam, and after that you go down to sajda. However, now I see some of our imams saying Allahu Akbar while going down for sajda, meaning they are no longer upright while reciting Allahu Akbar. The same applies in between the two sajdas. Is this allowed? I hope I made myself clear. I understand. So, this question was from WhatsApp, and in regards to, are we allowed to move and recite, or do you have to get into the position, recite, and then move towards the next stage of the salah? So I'm in the ruku, I go into qiyam, Sami Allahu liman hamida, Allahu Akbar, and go down into sujood, or can I, as I'm rising, Sami Allahu liman hamida, and then maybe when I'm going towards sujood, Allahu Akbar, in between, on the way down, and then going to sujood, and even likewise between the sajdatain, saying Allahu Akbar, not when you're in the position of taslim, but as you're rising or as you're going down and so forth. Is this allowed according to our ahkam? And there's akhlaq of praying salah. Is this part of the akhlaq of praying salah?
As you mentioned, we have some of the akhlaq or the etiquettes or the manners of salah, that there are some dhikr mentioned in particular positions that you have to respect and apply. For example, as you mentioned, before going to the sujood, for example, it's better to say Allahu Akbar in a standstill, stable condition, and then you go towards the sujood, for example. Of course, it's good to say dhikr in between, mid, let's say, on your way towards the sujood or ruku', or let's say sujood. You have that gap, about 2 seconds, from going from, after you finished your ruku', you stand now towards the sujood. It's good to say some dhikr. Let's say, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah. These adhkar, they can be said within these gaps. But it's better to keep that Allahu Akbar, as mentioned, as the way we see in the salah, that you would be stand still and say Allahu Akbar, and then you go to ruku', you stand again, Allahu Akbar, towards the sujood. That is the best way to basically implement these etiquettes of salah.
Ahsan. Sheikhna, is it permissible to work in a company whose owner is a non-Kitabi, given that the company does not deal with prohibited products and it is currently a non-alternative Muslim employer? Working for a non-Muslim, regardless whether it is to do with halal products or haram products and so forth, I'm sure there's no issue with working. For example, if you're a mechanic and you work at a garage and the garage is owned by someone who's not a Muslim, maybe he's not even Kitabi, is that acceptable? Is that okay?
In today's world, where we have millions of Muslims are now living abroad from their own hometowns and countries, live in America, Australia and Europe, and many of them, if not most, work in companies in which run by the CEO or the director is actually a non-Muslim. There's no objection to working in such places. It is permissible. What is important that for that individual, brother or sister, they have to make sure that they do not commit any sins while working in these premises and place of work. One of the ahkam in which it's forbidden is to shake hand with the opposite gender. When you go for interview, when you go for even work, if you're in a sales and marketing position, you have clients coming in, it's a B2B business, for example, you have to make sure that you either change your position to avoid such, ahkam issues where it's forbidden to shake hand with the opposite gender. And we had a good experience and subhanAllah, a test in which for 2 years people did not shook hand because of the pandemic. And that shows that we can implement this notion and this subject, that as a Muslim I cannot shake hand because of my religion, and they have to respect it, as they did not shook hand for 2 years because of a virus. Now, you're right. We have our own understandings and interpretations in terms of such dealings, alcohol, mixed gathering, dancing, music, drinking, and so forth. They have to understand. Ala kulli hal.
Understood. Sheikhna from WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna and host. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Hope you're well. If a so-called Shia believes that the Prophet and the Imams were regular people and only divine revelation and certain attributes, would this be an act of muqassirin? And also as regards to them rejecting Sayyid Fatima Zahra sallallahu alayha to be a human angel, would this be an act of taqsir too? Jazakallah khair.
In overall, our aqidah in Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, as I've mentioned now a few minutes ago, that they are khulafa Allah Azza wa Jal fi ardih, that they are Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they represent Allah's khilafah on this planet and even in this world. As Allah Azza wa Jal sent the Holy Prophet rahmatan lil alameen, as a mercy to the world, not just this world. There are other worlds that the Prophet is also involved in that we haven't reached yet. The world of the jinn, for example.
Yes.
And so forth. So these are an important in aqidah, to believe in their purity, to believe in their isma, infallibility, to believe that they have a huge knowledge Allah gave them, as it was given to Isa in the cradle when he said, Inni Abdullah, when he was born, the first 2-3 days of his birth. Atani al-Kitab. that Allah gave me, revealed the book on me while he was in his cradle. So Allah Azza wa Jalla would choose the right individuals to represent him on this earth, to be as hujjah over the people, and to be shahid and witness in the day of judgment for their deeds.
I think that the viewer was asking more on the lines of, if someone believes that, for example, these ma'sumin, they could not perform miracles, or they were just ordinary people, not that they had something special about them, especially when it comes to how they were created from the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And likewise, on the opposite scale, taking someone like Sayyidina Fatima Zahra salamu alayha and making her to be some sort of, a human angel or some sort, so is it too much on either side? Or actually, no, we have plenty of narrations, we have plenty of hadith, we have plenty of text to actually give us a very, very good understanding of Aimma and the Ahlul Bayt and Fatima Zahra salamu alayha and what they could do on this earth.
I would recommend this individual, or those who have such beliefs or doubts or skepticism in this field, to go back and read the hadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, and even to look into the non-Shia books as well. The greatness of Fatima alayhi salam, for example, in Bukhari. This is in Sahih Bukhari. It's not in Kitab al-Kafi or Bihar, that the hadith says, إن الله يرضى لرضا فاطمة ويغضب لغضب فاطمة سلام الله عليها. That Allah would be angry if Fatima is angry, and He would be satisfied if Fatima is satisfied. So it's not the opposite; it's the other side. We have to be satisfied if Allah is satisfied. If Allah is happy with something, we should be happy as well. If He gets angry, we have to get angry as well against A'da Allah Azza wa Jal. So such a hadith are in the Ahl Sunnah's books. So if one has a doubt, at least read these ahadith, because these ahadith are like an anwar. Nur comes to your heart and opens your heart and opens your mind towards the right path, inshallah.
More questions coming in, mashallah. Sheikh, you're very popular today. From YouTube, is threading the eyebrows permissible? I'm assuming it's a female, but let's say for male and female. Threading the eyebrows.
For the sisters, they can, but because it becomes like a zina for the sister, they have to cover it somehow, according to some opinions.
And
they have to cover, because it's a zina. It becomes like a zina, it's like a beautification. If that title entitles this act, then of course they have to cover it with, bring down the hijab, for example.
What
down.
What about the brothers that want to groom their eyebrows, let's say?
Should be fine, but it's better not to too much look like the sisters.
Okay.
Don't take too much of that.
I see.
Just
I see.
Small amount. Yeah.
From YouTube as well, Sheikh, can I pray Salat al-Layl soon after Isha prayer?
Yes, indeed. What the ulama say today, that when you finish Salat al-Isha, for example, unless you're a student, you work in a company, you have to wake up 7 o'clock in the morning, you can't wake up earlier than that, then of course you can pray Salat al-Layl after the Isha, and you go to sleep.
You can even pray Qadha, I believe.
Yes, during the daytime, yes.
You can pray
but
Qadha.
Of course, the one has time, if the Salat al-Maghrib and Isha, especially in winter, it's around 6-7 o'clock p.m., then one can easily pray it. Or just before you sleep. If you sleep at 9, pray the Salat al-Layl at 8:30, for example, 8:45. It's just 12 minutes. Each rak'ah is 1 minute. You can just pray. You don't have to do all the, mustahabbat of the Salat al-Layl.
Inshallah. Sheikhna, question: can we act upon the verdicts of one who has passed away, according to His Eminence the Grand Ayatollah Sheikh Wahid Khurasani?
The Sheikh Samahatahu, he says that if somebody acts upon the issue or the mas'ala of a living alim in a mas'ala, they cannot go back to the deceased alim that they used to follow before. So if somebody, for example, follows Ayatollah Sistani in a mas'ala, for example, now, he cannot go back to his previous marja', who was Ayatollah Khoui, for example, and follow the mas'ala which they are in difference in this mas'ala. So you have to now follow, because you've acted upon the living alim, you cannot go back to the deceased alim and take his fatwa.
Sheikhna, if one knows that the train will not stop during the prescribed time of salah to perform the salah, and thus one would have to perform the salah on board the train, is it permissible to ride this train? So if, I guess that's for many things as well, Sheikhna. Car drive, car journey, flying on a plane, a long train ride. Oh, if I go, sometimes the days are short or the nights are short. If I go, I'm not going to get to my destination and the time of salah will finish. Should I just avoid not taking that transport? Or should I pray on the transportation?
If the time of salah would become qada as a result of this journey, it's a flight or it's a train, for example, it's not going to stop in a place where you can pray at least that 5-10 minutes break, let's say a train or a bus. If it's going to continue that journey without stop, then of course it becomes wajib on you to pray inside the time and inside that vehicle, be it a train or a bus or a plane. You have to pray it. Of course, it's going to be difficult in terms of the qibla position, in terms of stability, motionlessness, and so forth. You have to do your best and pray the salah as much as you can to define the qibla, to be motionless, to be stable, and so forth.
Ahsantum. Sheikhna from WhatsApp. What is the view on Walayat al-Taqwini? Is it permissible to believe in it? I have heard it does not exist. To clarify, Walayat al-Taqwini is the belief the Imams controlled the atoms and the universe by the help of Allah, of course. This is from WhatsApp. Sheikhna, Walayat Tashri and Walayat al-Taqwini is what we were taught in Hawza, especially in Aqaid. Legislative law and creational law, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates laws and He also creates creation and so forth. This Walaya, you could say, like Walayat Tashri, that's where the word Sharia comes from as well, belong to all the hujjah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as they were jurists and so forth, and they were bringing down the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What about the Walayat Taqwiniya? Did that also belong to the hujjah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
The Walayat Taqwiniya is the Holy Quran. I just mentioned a few minutes ago, how did a baby was able to talk in his cradle by saying, Inni Abdullah atani al-kitab. That's a Walayat. Walayat Taqwini means you have a control over this universe.
Yes.
You can do something metaphysically. So basically you can talk if you're a baby, for example, or you can, even Isa alayhi salam in other verses, that I create from mud, كهيئة الطير, like a bird. But بإذن الله, it's all بإذن الله.
Yes.
When he says, إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب, it's بإذن الله. Allah gave him this power and ability. That's Walayat Taqwiniya, that you can talk to people with correct sentences and words, eloquent, while you're a 3 days child, for example, just recently born. That's a Walaya. It's in the Quran. And of course in the hadith of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam, in which they have the Walaya as well of Taqwiniya. So the prophets had this Walaya, as I mentioned. And Isa alayhi salam went beyond that. He would create, he would raise the dead from the grave, for example. That power that Allah gave him to have this tasarruf in the universe, that to cure, for example, a blind man, for example, or to raise a dead and so forth. That's Walayat Taqwiniya, that Allah gives to those who deserve it, those who represent Him on this earth.
Indeed. Ahsan Sheikhna. More questions. Here's one from YouTube. Can I do multiple niyyah for deceased brothers and grandparents when I pray Waladain Namaz? When you pray Salah for thawab of the marhum and so forth, can I have the niyyah of more than one marhum, or it has to be per marhum?
Yes, indeed, one can do so. One of the ulama, interestingly, he was basically, in his lectures, he was saying that I had a small doubt about this issue. That how could Allah Azza wa Jal not be able, but how could He, that if I do the intention, for example, of reciting Surah Fatiha for the marhumin, not just one, for many, that could basically reach the mu'mineen and they get their portion. So he said that I saw in the dream that I was in a graveyard and I was reciting Surah Al-Hamd, Fatiha, for all the mu'mineen. And I saw that from the sky, like chandeliers came with lights illuminating to each grave as a gift from Allah Azza wa Jal because of my recitation of the Fatiha.
Okay.
Allah is Rahman Rahim, Allah is merciful, Allah is rich, Kareem, all these sifatullah Azza wa Jal. He can turn one verse into millions of rewards, one act, one deed, one ala kulli hal, qada haja. As we have in the hadith that if somebody drinks water and he says Salamullah al Hussein, wa la'anallah a'da al Hussein alayhi salam, la'anallah Yazid, those who killed Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he gets 100,000 rewards.
MashaAllah.
How come? Allah is Rahman Rahim, He is merciful, He is generous. He wants to give. He wants to give His abd, al-mu'min, to raise him towards the paradise and to remove him from the adab and the torment of the hellfire.
Ahsan, Sheikhna, thank you. More questions coming, Sheikhna. Assalamu alaikum. Also, can we Hadiyah Walidain Namaz count as Nafila Namaz between Maghrib and Isha? Okay, instead of praying your Nafila, can you pray these prayers for the marhum as a Hadiyah to the marhum? And do they count as Nafila as well?
You see, the mustahab, you can do the thawab for the marhumin, the mustahab acts. And even the wajib, if they have salah, they haven't prayed, you do qada on their behalf, for example. That they might have not prayed, for example. We have some even ulama would write in their wills, they are pious ulama, muttaqeen, please repeat all my salah from my childhood till my adulthood. So some people would repeat their salah of the mu'mineen, for 35, 40 years, whatever they prayed since their adolescence, bulugh time. So one can do so. The intention is important, that one have the intention.
Sheikh on WhatsApp, can a woman cancel her mut'ah if the husband does not support her? They've been in mut'ah since 2017 and the contract is going to finish this December. What advice can you give? Thanks so much. Okay, so it's been 5 years. These two have been in a mut'ah marriage. Obviously it's not going well, or the sister's rights, the rights of the wife, have not been fulfilled and so forth. Does she have the power to cancel or end the mut'ah contract earlier than the time that was decided between the two and agreed upon? Or does she just have to wait till December? It's only 2 months away, why can't you just wait? But yeah, can she get her time back, as they say?
She can ask her husband to let off the rest and the remaining days or weeks of this marriage. So he would have to say to her, وَهَبْتُ لَكِ الْمُدَّةِ, that I'm letting off the remaining days of the marriage contract. In this case, she can separate from him, and that's the end of that contract in this way.
Sheikhna, it is a known mustahab act that the Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen, they wear an aqiq on the right hand. Are they allowed to wear an aqiq on the left hand?
You see, one of the signs of the mu'min, I think we recited this hadith some time ago, of the Arba'in's hadith, about the Arba'in, Ziyat al-Arba'in, that the Imam says, one of the signs of the mu'min, وَاتَّخَدْتُمْ بِالْيَمِينِ, is to wear the ring in your right side. The enemies of Ahlul Bayt, they start to wear it on the left side, just to show their animosity against the Ahlul Bayt and the way and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just to define who is Shia and who is not Shia. So they would suppress him, take him.
Well, where I come from in Pakistan, they've got it on all the fingers, both hands, full.
If you have it in one hand, you can have it on the second hand, that's fine. But to have in one hand...
Oh, just on the left and not on the right?
Not on the right, yeah. So you can fill both hands, that's fine.
Okay. Just before we go for a break, Sheikhna, again from WhatsApp, Sayyidah Zainab, was she infallible?
Salamullah alayha. Of course, we have what some ulama would say, asma soghra, the minor asma, because the major asma is for the 14 infallibles, Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salamullah alayhim. Those 14, they have the utmost or the major asma.
Yes.
And the minor asma is for their sons and daughters, Abbas alayhi salam, Zainab alayhi salam.
Yeah. I mean, the way Sheikh Panju, where we've had many conversations, where he explained it was, there's different levels of infallibility. And obviously, the absolute infallibility, is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then, with the Ahlul Bayt, the 14 Ma'asumin have a thorough, infallibility, compare that mentioned in the Quran, verse 33 and Surah 33. And then the others, like, the companions and so forth, Salman Farsi and so forth, Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, Sayyidina Zainab as well, they had also infallibility to a certain stage. Sheikh, now we're going to go to a short break. Join us after the break as we continue our discussion here on Ahkam SOS.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of scholars at home.
Is it permissible to plant trees by or
Was
over
Islam
the
established
graves?
based on peace and
Is it permissible
non-violence?
to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it permitted to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim
Is there
countries?
an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, call in on +44 2035 150199 or WhatsApp us on +44 7415 092155. Alternatively, you can also email us on ahkamsos@imamhussein.tv.
Every day, communities across the globe are in need of safe sources of water for drinking, washing, cooking, rearing livestock and watering crops. Yet for these millions of people, this basic human right is out of reach. Imam Hussein Charity aims to build water wells in Afghanistan, providing fresh and clean water for those in need. Your donations could help us build a water well. Water is the source of life. Help us to provide our brothers and sisters with this basic necessity. To donate or for more information, visit www.imamhusseincharity.com.
الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In today's hadith of the day, I'm going to share with you a saying from our beloved fourth holy Imam, Imam al-Sajjad, also known as Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. As narrated in Usul al-Kafi, Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam said, were people aware of what lies in the obtainment of knowledge, they would pursue it even though they had to make voyages and endanger their lives to obtain it. In these hectic lives that we live in, focused on work, school, etc., sometimes we can forget about how important it is to dedicate time towards seeking knowledge and how beneficial it is for us. On a basic level, knowledge strengthens the mind and leaves you more prepared to deal with life's outcomes. Wealth, health, and all that we own may come and go, but knowledge always stays and always benefits you. And we also know of the immense blessings that come with seeking it. Perhaps this is why the Imam said that if we knew what lies in the obtainment of knowledge, we would even endanger ourselves to obtain it. So, let's dedicate more time to seeking knowledge wherever that knowledge may be. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Now, this is a live show, and if you have any questions you'd like to ask in regards to Islamic law, please send them in via WhatsApp. You can give us a call in the studio, 0203 515 0199. At the bottom should be a little QR code there, and that'll send you to our Linktree page, where you can see different ways to view us and also to send in your questions. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube Live, you can send in your questions in the comment section. Inshallah, the technical team will send them forward, will forward them and send them to me on my little handy iPad here. And inshallah, I'll be able to discuss and answer your questions. You can ask any question you like. We don't need to know your name or where you're calling from. Ask your questions totally anonymous. If you have a question in regards to a particular marja's fatawa, tell us the name of the marja. We have contacts with the official representatives and official offices, and we can get all of those information for you. And inshallah, me and Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer all of your queries. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sheikhna, is it mandatory that the body is motionless during the standing position in prayer?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yes, indeed, the musalli should be motionless and stable in the salah. one of the shurut of salah, that you should not be moving in your salah, and to perform the salah with complete motionless and stability, without moving to the left or to the right.
So this is swaying.
Exactly, not
So
swing.
should not sway. And what about if you're on a boat or if you're on a plane? That doesn't count. That's okay.
Of course, that's something in which if somebody is compelled, of course, that's a different story. As I've mentioned, you do your best to pray the salah inside the vehicle if you have to, because of salah will be qada. Even if the vehicle is moving, you do your best to apply all these conditions of salah. Otherwise, you do your best in this situation.
So, Sheikh, if one doubts whether he has performed the ghusl or if he has performed the ghusl or janaba, what should be his ruling? Let's just say for this case, he knows that he's junub, but he doesn't know if he's performed the ghusl or not. Maybe he had a shower and he forgot to perform the ghusl and so forth. What is the ruling here?
Well, he or she they have to repeat the ghusl. Basically, it's wajib for the one to make sure that they are pure from this situation. So you have to repeat the ghusl if you are unsure if you have done the ghusl or no. Even the hukum of the wudu, same thing. I'm not sure if I did the wudu. Shall I pray now? You have to be certain that you're in purity for salah. In purity after the ghusl, that you're pure. So if you're in doubt, you have to do these acts again to make sure that you have achieved the purification and tahara.
Sheikh, now we're going to go to our Shia Plus video, inshallah, and inshallah we'll be able to answer someone's queries. Here's the video. Bismillah.
Let me give sadaqah. Oh. Wait, I need to pay for my bus, and I've already made the niyyah. Can I take it back?
Yes, young Qarar there. Sheikhna, we always have the niyyah to give to charity and so forth. Sometimes we forget that this money was for something else, or we require it for something else. But we made the niyyah to give the sadaqah. Sometimes, you know, that's a box where you put the sadaqah money and it's difficult to take out. Some people have a bag or a bowl where they put the money in, and they can easily take the money out as well. So when you make the niyyah, but then you realize, actually, no, you need the money, are you allowed to take back your sadaqah money?
Some of our ulama would say that, and in some cases as a precaution, wajib, that as long as this money is now put aside for the purpose of sadaqah, you cannot use it as a precaution. Some would say no, you can, but it's best to avoid it. You know, you've made the intention that this is going to be for the sadaqah, for the people who are in poverty and need, aitam, and so forth. So just leave it aside and don't touch it. But better not to use it. So one would take as a precaution not to touch this money. Some would say you can, but it's better not to do so.
Ahsan. From YouTube, Sheikh, now, what are the best ways to remove waswasa and avoid excessive doubts regarding tahara? We've mentioned this many times, Sheikh. We've had this discussion loads of times. 9 times out of 10, the waswas, or in regards to your tahara, is just OCD. And you're either focusing too much on the tartib, have you done the tartib properly, or you're focusing too much on whether the water has reached all the places and so forth, and are you generally in tahara. But I want to give it over to Sheikhna. Sheikhna, best ways to remove waswasa and avoid excessive doubts regarding tahara. I think we even have riwayah and hadith in regards to the one who has excessive doubts, especially in prayer, that they should avoid these doubts or don't pay attention to them.
Exactly as you've said, and I've mentioned this before, that the hadith says, the Imam says to that individual that this is from shaitan, this is coming from Satan, because sometimes if he fails, the shaitan fails to deceive the individual through the haram acts, he would come through the ibadat and try to deceive you through the ibadat, the acts of worship. And one of the ways is to spread that issue of waswasa, in which you have to repeat your wudu 4 or 5 times. Sometimes you have to stand, to be in the bathroom, inside the shower, for an hour and a half to make sure that the water reached everywhere, and repeat and repeat. So that's the act of shaitan, in which is promoting and pushing this individual to repeat. So best thing, as you mentioned, is to ignore and say, inshallah, my act is correct and sahih. And proceed and just carry on with your wajib amal.
Sure. From WhatsApp, Sheikh, now, what are the most reliable dates for Fatimiyya in the Islamic calendar? I think it's the third one is the popular one. Though our ulama have encouraged to commemorate all three dates and so forth. Sheikh, which one is the, I wouldn't say the most accurate, the most reliable, but let's just say the most famous one?
The second and the third are the most famous ones. Some would go for the third, as you mentioned, yes. So, yeah. And anyhow, we have to commemorate this great event. I mean, Lady Fatima Salamullah alayha, this great Sayyida, Shahida, Madluma, she deserves to be remembered in around the year, to be honest, not just in Fatimiyya time.
Yes.
So I think even for the first Fatimiyya, which is the less mentioned or the less commemorated, also to be, for example, majlis to be held on the first Fatimiyya, which is between 8, 9 and 10 of Rabi' al-Awwal, or 7, 8, 9 of Rabi' al-Awwal, in that region.
Sheikh,
Rabi' al-Thani.
Okay.
So 7, 8, 9 of Rabi' al-Thani. Rabi' al-Awwal is Imam Hussein alayhi Askari, Shahada, and then you have on the 9th Eid al-Zahra.
Yes.
So that's for Rabi' al-Thani, first Fatimiyya, first narration.
If a woman is not obliged to obey her husband in household matters such as cooking and such like, why is she obliged to seek his permission when leaving the house? This results in controlling her movement. Does the husband have the right to imprison his wife for life?
Not at all. The husband has no right, absolutely, to imprison his wife and use the Shari'i means to oppress her. There are wajibat, mutual wajibat, to be exchanged between the husband and the wife. The husband should spend on her his wajib al-nafaqah, to buy her clothes, that suits her, for example, her sha'n, as they say in fiqh, sha'n al-mar'a, to accommodate her, for example, a vehicle, for example, to be able to transport her, for example, from one place to another, and so forth. And of course, she has to offer him the two wajib, or at least, for example, to ask permission before she leaves. And as I've said before, you don't have to ask permission for every single
there can be a
departure.
General,
it's just a general consent that I'm going to go out, I'm going to go to study, shopping, see my mom, for example, visit my relatives, go to the majlis, to the mambarga, to the mosque. There should be a mutual agreement with this regard. And of course, the issue of marital relationship also, that she should be able to offer this for the husband. Of course, again, not to be utilized or used in a way that becomes like animalistic way. They have to somehow respect each other as human beings, loving human beings.
Final question, Sheikh, for the episode. Is the consent of a woman in marriage conditional before the aqd and intercourse? If the woman is coerced into marriage by being morally threatened by her father and her marriage is without her consent and choice, is such marriage valid?
Without her consent, the marriage is not valid. And that's what we see today in some of the tribes, Arabs or non-Arab tribes, that they force, as they say, arranged marriages. They force this man to marry this woman, or this boy to marry this girl. If it's without her consent, it's not valid. And it's a problematic issue in which they are forcing the girl to get married in somehow. So it's a problematic. They have to ask the permission of the girl. And as we have, وَلَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. A good example, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he went and he spoke and he took the consent from Fatima alayhi salam when Imam Ali alayhi salam came to ask for her hand.
Yeah, he went to speak to her.
So yes, he took the consent of Fatima alayhi salam before the marriage. Why shouldn't we do the same thing?
And her silence was an approval.
Approval, exactly.
Yeah, she accepted.
Exactly. So without the consent of the girl, of the woman, it's not valid, of course.
Ahsan, Sheikh. Thank you so much. And thank you for all the viewers for joining us on this episode of Ahkam SOS. Inshallah, myself and the Sheikh will be back on Wednesday to answer any of your questions. If you have a question you'd like to send in, please send it in via the WhatsApp. You can send it in via, if you're watching on Facebook Live or YouTube Live, in the comment section and so forth. If you have TikTok, you can follow us on TikTok at Ahkam SOS. You can even, ask your questions directly messaging us or in the comment sections there. And inshallah, myself and the Sheikh will be back here on Imam Hussein TV 3, Sky Channel 789. See you on Wednesday, 7 o'clock. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In today's hadith of the day, I'm going to share with you a saying from our beloved fourth holy Imam, Imam As-Sajjad, also known as Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. As narrated in Usul al-Kafi, Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam said, "Were people aware of what lies in the obtainment of knowledge, they would pursue it even though they had to make voyages and endanger their lives to obtain it." In these hectic lives that we live in, focused on work, school, etc., sometimes we can forget about how important it is to dedicate time towards seeking knowledge and how beneficial it is for us. On a basic level, knowledge strengthens the mind and leaves you more prepared to deal with life's outcomes. Wealth, health, and all that we own may come and go, but knowledge always stays and always benefits you. And we also know of the immense blessings that come with seeking it. Perhaps this is why the Imam said that if we knew what lies in the obtainment of knowledge, we would even endanger ourselves to obtain it. So, let's dedicate more time to seeking knowledge, wherever that knowledge may be. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أنا لا راتب ولا عندي معين ولا عندي ولد كبير، ما عندي أحد اللي يعيني، وعلى الله وعلى أخوتي عيشتي حيل